Hi, my name is Grace Speroni, and welcome back to Conversations with the ERC5. Today, as my guest, I have Kyle Sullivan with Brown & Brown Insurance. Kyle, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. So, tell me about Brown & Brown Insurance and how you got started in the insurance industry.
Thanks. So Brown & Brown Insurance, it's the fifth largest independent insurance broker in the nation. We have almost 500 offices, 15,000 employees, and what I really like about Brown & Brown is that we're a large enough organization to have lots of insurance companies that we work with, so we're able to find the best companies, but we also have a local feel. You've worked with some people at Brown & Brown in the past, and
yes.
So we're able to give that local feel but have a large agency presence where we're able to negotiate the best premiums, have companies consider businesses that might be a tougher risk for them to insure, and you continue to have that local feel when you're working with a broker with us. And then for myself, how I got involved in the insurance industry, I'm actually a third generation insurance agent. My father's in the industry. My grandfather had an agency. He sold the agency long before I was in insurance, but growing up, I used to go there with my aunt on the weekends and clean up. So I guess I started in insurance when I was about my son's age, who's probably going to be a fourth generation insurance agent. He doesn't know it yet. I brought it up to him and he's like, yeah, maybe. And I was like, okay. I was like a no at 8 years old, so maybe's okay. But so I'm told it's in my blood. I love the insurance industry. I specialize in working with businesses and real estate investors, and the reason I love it is because I've worked in a small business. I worked at Peppa's Pizza for 10 years and family friend now, and just seeing how hard a business works and what it takes to get to where they're at and to have their business grow and develop, all that hard work that goes into it, and insurance is an opportunity to protect it. So I love working with entrepreneurs and in the industry, and that's kind of what attracted me to it, is seeing my dad do it, and he loved it, knowing my grandfather was successful and he enjoyed it. And my dad at some point said, after I graduated from Nicholas College and I was doing a sales role at another company, I realized I liked sales. I knew I loved entrepreneurship, so my father said, hey, how about checking out the insurance industry? And I took a shot, and I loved it. And I loved it ever since. So now I've been doing it about 12 years, and it just continues to be a great industry to be in, and I enjoy it very much.
That's wonderful. Well, you said sales, and sometimes people go, oh, sales. But I think salespeople are amazing, and they're wonderful, because all they're trying to do is help the public find the right solution for a problem that they may have. So I'm grateful that your grandfather and your dad instilled that passion to help others in you. And I'm sure your son will follow in those footsteps because it's so important. I've done business with Brown & Brown, with a gentleman there, and I know firsthand how important that is, because he took care of everything I needed before I knew I needed it. Yeah. I had a small business, and, I don't know anything about insuring it. I just want to save money.
Yep.
But fortunately, Bob guided me.
Yep.
And when I did have that situation arise where there was a fire and we lost everything, I was able to pick up and start over again, where a lot of the other businesses that were in the location I was in were unable to do that.
Yeah.
Because I had an insurance agent that guided me and made the right decisions for me, even though I wasn't totally aware of what I was buying into. And, my thought was, could I save a few dollars?
Yeah.
He knew how to guide me. And that's amazing. So tell me, how do you sit down with like a first-time homeowner or a business that's just starting? How do you guide them through? Because that is, as a business owner or homeowner, you're just thinking about saving money. But you can't just look at it from that perspective. You have to see the whole picture. Yeah.
Yep. You bring up a couple of great points. So I look at it as educational selling. So my job is to educate a business owner or real estate investor that I work with on the coverages that are important to protect them and their business, so that if there is a claim, and it's a covered claim, that we can make sure that they can continue business, similar to your experience. So a lot of people see the value of insurance after they use it, but prior to that, it's another line item. It's another expense that they look and they say, okay, I got this insurance policy that I'm paying for, haven't used it yet, but eventually I think most businesses will use their insurance. To what extent, I think that kind of varies on whether or not something catastrophic happens or if it's a small claim. So educational selling, I think, is the way that I go with. And what I do is I explain what coverages are important for them to have, why I recommend. I try to understand their business. I have them tell me about their business, what concerns they might have or what coverages they were interested, and prompted them to kind of seek me in the beginning, whether or not they currently have insurance. And kind of understanding that gives me a sense of what they're looking for, what's important for them. But my job as an educator of insurance is to make sure that they not only have what they came to me for, what they wanted, but they have the right coverage. Because if something happens and goes wrong, I want to be able to help them continue their operations. Like I said, working with a small business for many years, I know how hard they work, and to see somebody work that hard and know that there's an opportunity for me to have that business continue to operate after is what makes what I do rewarding, is knowing that I can help that business continue to exist and continue to do well. And so I do that through education, understanding their business. And at the end of the day, I'm an advisor. Somebody looks and they say, well, I'm not interested in that coverage. At least they know that there's that exposure. At least they know that they could need that. And they have a sense of how much it costs if they are interested in pursuing it. And maybe now is not the right time and they choose to go for that coverage in the future. But I think the first step is knowing what the exposures and that there actually is coverage for that. Because one of the misconceptions that I find is that people see a policy as being all policies being equal. So they look and they say, well, I talked to 3 agents. They all know that I bought this 30-unit apartment building, or that I'm opening a restaurant, or that I'm a contractor, and I got 3 quotes. And it's like, we all understand that that's your business, but not necessarily every product is equal. Because what I'll find when reviewing a policy, somebody comes to me and they say, well, I'd really like to work with you, but you're more money. And it's like, okay, are the coverages similar on my policy as the other policies? And normally it's, yeah, I looked at them, they're the same. And it's, do you mind me taking a look? Because what I've found is a lot of times someone will say that the coverages are similar, but then when I take a look, I find out the reason that I was more expensive is because there was a lot more coverage, important coverages that they're missing on these other options. So I think the misconception that people have is, I have 3 quotes, they all understand where my business is located, they all understand what I'm doing, and these are all the policies are equal. And it's not until, unfortunately, I review it ahead of time if they're going to give me that opportunity before they choose an option, or after, if they have a claim, that they find out that there was a coverage that they should have picked and my policy probably had.
Well, and that's a good point, right? We get our bill in the mail, and it's like, oh, wow, look at how much this is. Yep. And let me see if somebody else can give me a better quote. Yeah. And then you get different quotes, and unless you're fluent in insurance policy and all of that, it really can be, I think, mind-boggling. And you read it, and it looks like I've got all the same things, but you really do need to sit down with your agent and ask them, is this really the same, and what are the differences, right? Absolutely. And working with someone who's knowledgeable, who's been doing it a long time, who understands your business, and is really able to provide you a product that is comprehensive enough to cover not just like the major types of claims, but also the things that other agents might not think of, or that you didn't think of, because you understand your business, you're the expert there, but you trust an advisor like myself to be the expert of insurance. And that's what we're supposed to do, is educate you on what's important to have. And then as the business owner, you make the decision. But if we do a great job, which I think most of us do, then you're able to make the right decisions for your business. Circle back to something you said earlier, because it reminded me back when I had teenagers with car insurance. Yep. And that is, you said you work with a large group of providers, right? Yep. So I don't really even need to go shopping around. I could just say to you, Kyle, I don't like this price point. Is there any way you can help me with this? I don't know, the car's 15 years old or, something like that. The kids are using it, and you could just do the shopping for me right at Brown, within Brown and Brown, correct?
Yeah. So my focus is on business insurance, but we also do home and auto insurance at the agency. And the point that you bring up is a great one. So as a broker, we have options. We have multiple companies that we represent. And one of the things I love about Brown and Brown is that we represent a ton of companies. And so somebody might go to multiple brokers like myself. There's lots of agencies in the area, and they say, hey, I'm looking for a quote. And a lot of times we're going to the same companies. But Brown and Brown has access to a lot of companies, so chances are if you are looking for another option, we can check into that option as well as kind of talk to the existing carrier and see if there's a need to maybe make some changes to your policy. Maybe there's some coverages that you need that you didn't need before, and that's why one of the important things that I'm learning and have learned to do is to have a policy review, because people's needs change.
Yes.
Not always that they're going to bring to our attention. So by having that communication with our business owners and our real estate investors, we're making sure that they continue to have the right coverage. But they can reach out to me, and most of my customers do, to have a conversation about whether or not the current company is the right fit. And sometimes we find that they are, and sometimes we find that they're not. But what I try to do is I try to be proactive in having a conversation before the renewal to get a sense of where the company is going to come in at in premium, if there's any concerns on the company's end or the insured's end, and trying to make sure that we get the best rate, but we also have the best coverage, because having a great premium is important. But I think the cost of no insurance is something that's missed, or being underinsured. So people, they look and they say, I know how much my insurance costs, but they're not contemplating the cost of being underinsured or the cost of passing on a coverage, because that's not a line item on their spreadsheets of expenses. So what I try to do is I try to let people know what the cost of having the insurance might be, and then if they are to pass, the type of expenses they might be looking at by being underinsured and not having coverage at all.
What might happen if something in a situation arises and then you don't have the right coverage? To me, I think, we all have a financial advisor. We have advisors for different things. And I think we should look at our insurance agents as our advisors as well.
Absolutely.
And develop that relationship so that you have a better understanding of my business and my goals for the future and where I want to go, so that you can provide me the right direction.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's all about the relationship.
It is. And then understanding your business as it changes over time. I mean, I've worked with businesses who've grown in my 12 years, have grown from maybe one or two people to dozens of employees, and kind of watching that change and being involved in the process to make sure as their needs change, their coverages change too, if it's needed. So it's definitely important to have that relationship with your agent, where they're an advisor and they're involved in some of your decisions. I mean, if you have a broker and you trust, or if you're interested in working with me, what I would say is that somebody has their policy reviewed on a regular basis, has anything that's changed in their business, communicate that with their agent. And if you have a question on whether or not something's covered, because in the middle of the night you're worried and you're saying, I don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, that could just be me because I'm in insurance, but I think we all look and say, hey, what if this happens? Yeah.
Yeah, we're all guilty of having those anxiety moments in the middle of the night where we say, oh my goodness, do I have enough? So when you're having one of those moments, we encourage our audience to wait until maybe 9 o'clock in the morning. But what would be the best way for them to get in touch with you to get help and just take a look at where I'm going with my insurance, and how can you help me?
Absolutely. So, I mean, text message is always good. Email, phone call, whatever works best for people. My phone number is 413-262-7802. And then my email address is Kyle.K.Sullivan@bbrown.com. And I'd say just reach out to me. And if you already have an agent that you're happy with, I say consider me a resource. If you want to bounce a question off me, or if I'm already your agent, of course, I think anyone who I'm already working with texts me, and sometimes it isn't at 9 o'clock in the morning, but that's one of the things I understand. I mean, so claims don't just happen between 9 and 5. Questions just don't happen between 9 and 5 on Monday through Friday. I mean, I enjoy spending time with my son on the weekend and having hobbies, but one of my favorite hobbies is work. I actually enjoy what I do a lot. So, I mean, if somebody texts me and I can't answer, usually I'll at least send them a message and saying, hey, I'll get back to you later. Or I just try to give them some kind of response so that I know that it's I've made that touch point and that we're going to talk further later. So
all right. Well, thank you for sharing your email and your phone number with us, because that is so true, and it's something I didn't think of. An emergent situation can happen at 2 a.m, and that may very well be when you need to get a message to your insurance agent and say, I have a problem, guide me through this.
Yeah. I might, if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, I might not respond until like maybe 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning. But I mean, if something happens on the weekend, I tell people, especially the restaurants that I work with or real estate investors, I had a claim. That somebody gives me a call, and I'm there for them. I mean, it's not just a policy that I'm selling. It's me being there to help them through the process, whatever it is.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us today, Kyle. This was a pleasure. Appreciate you making time for us.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to our viewers for watching this episode. You can catch our other episodes on our website at ERC5.com. Thank you.